bad advice that I received that I probably believed I needed to have a hero story and that the value that I would be giving to my clients was about me.
For founders, the advice never ends, so discernment becomes a valuable skill. Think of this show as practice. I'm Lindsay Tjepkema, and this is Actually I Can. Good conversations about bad advice. Let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm the CEO of MSP Consulting, and I help B2B SaaS founders build sustainable sales teams.
Amazing. All right, and tell us the bad advice that you received that you want to talk about today.
Yeah. So the bad advice that I received that I probably believed for like the first 15 years of my career that kept me from starting my own business for a long time is that I needed to have a hero story and that the value that I would be giving to my clients was about me. And so, yeah. So I'll unpack that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I've been a sales leader for my whole career, working in different startups. And now I help startup founders kind of do a lot of the same things that I did in my career. So going from making the jump from founder sales to hiring their first team, going from a small team to building a high performing team that can scale, going from having a team to bringing on their first sales leader, so on and so forth. And when I was coming up in this industry, I basically saw a lot of men who were older than me be given the authority to do these things. And the basis for that authority was always that they had some sort of a story behind them. So, it was either like, I took this company from 20 million to 200 million, and I'm going to do the same thing for you. Or it was like, hey, this company that was like a 500 person sales org. And so he has all of these best practices. And I'm being very specific because it is always a man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. And I just didn't have any of that. And if I really scratch the surface, I have a lot of great stories, but a lot of them are going to be with companies that you've never heard of. Mm-hmm. And yes, I did work at Trello. They did get acquired for $500 million. But if I'm being really honest, I only worked there for a year, and their story isn't because of their enterprise sales team. It was because of their product and marketing team,
Mm-hmm.
So I always felt like, am I being delusional? And am I being responsible by telling people that I can help them when I don't know if I even really have that proof? And it took me 3 times of trying and doubting myself and failing and going back into a full-time role before I finally started my own company. And one of those, the last attempt before I finally launched, I ended up getting sidelined and helping to build this whole agency for 2 years. And the head of that agency was somebody who had been a VP of sales at a very large, I think now publicly traded HR tech company. And so that was the only thing that he had to say. I was VP of sales at this company that you guys have all heard of. And it just haunted me for years. And I would go on LinkedIn and I would see all of these other people that had these things. And I'm like, they must be so much smarter than me. I'm sure there's a way better job, right?
Yeah.
Of course, eventually I decided to just go for it anyways. And what I learned over time, because every company that I work with has usually worked with somebody else like me, or their investors are telling them to work with this advisor.
Yep.
That advisor also always follows this same profile. And whenever I would meet them, I would it's I love Reshma Saujani, and she has this really great quote where she's like, she's like, I don't believe in imposter syndrome anymore because when you meet these people, she's like, and in my career, I've been in rooms with some of the biggest CEOs in the world, and I've met all of these people. And she's like, not a single one has impressed me. I'm always like, you?
You're right. I saw that interview too. She was like, you did that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
You're not special,
You're not special. Yeah.
You're not special. And she's such a boss. I love her so much for so many reasons. I think for me, really, the unlock was taking that you're not special. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way.
Yeah.
What I internalized from that actually gave me the confidence to do what I do now in my own business is that I realized that what I do is not about me at all. And I now see it as sort of a superpower because I'm not people are not working with me because they want access to one version of me or one story that I've lived in my life. And so I don't have any pressure to fall back on that or rely on that. It probably feels being a band that had a hit song. And you're there's so many other songs and they're but play that song. I don't have that. I don't have a hit song, which really gives me the freedom when I work with my clients to really like focus on them and
Right.
make it about them. And so over time now, having worked with like dozens of companies, the thing that I really bring is like this deep level of pattern matching. And it's given me so much more freedom and so much more creativity to like keep iterating and keep evolving. But if I'm being really honest, I still meet people that follow that other mold. And like, I talked to like 3 people in the last month that are resident experts at VCs, and they've only ever been a rep.
Yes.
They worked at these companies. And so they're like, this person must know what they're talking about. It's still out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me in the same way anymore.
Oh, goodness. Okay. There's so much to get into there. And by the way, I have been a CEO of a venture-backed company and worked with said like executives in residence or experts. Yeah. And it was like, well, I was an AE at Google. And I'm like,
yeah, like so.
Okay, but what about like what I'm trying to do right now? I'm like,
okay, so you're saying you sold advertising on Google because people needed to buy advertising on Google because you're Google.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much. And I think I wish that I had a fast forward button to that realization, that freeing like realization of like, you're not special. I'm not special. Like you said, it's not in a demeaning like, oh, you're not special. It's like, there is nothing more special about you than there is about me. And it's the audacity and the confidence to own your possibilities and to own your expertise and to own what you can do for other people. It's for sure not just women, but so often there's data that says men get asked what they've done and women get asked what they can do, like prove what you're going to do for me. And for men, and this is statistically speaking, what they've done is enough. It's like, oh, you worked at Google, cool. You're going to do successful things for me. And so there's just a whole lot of head trash, I think, coming up professionally and getting into kind of that expert level status and going out on your own and knowing that you can do big things for people, but looking at all of the other people, like waving their flags around saying like, oh, I grew this company from 0 to 10 billion by myself. It's so crushing to think that that's it. Like you have to be able to prove that, which is really crazy. Like nobody can say, hey, I did this once. It was all me and I can do it for every single person I work with.
Yeah. And that is something that is going to be transferable to another moment in time and like another.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah. It's a really crushing expectation, I think.
3 times that you can absolutely point to, but probably numerous more conversations in your head that it kept you from doing the thing that you're now doing that is not only, I mean, I know you well enough to know that this is making you happy, I think. and it's really helping other people. It's helping other businesses break through and do what they want to do and to grow. How can others hit that fast forward button and break through all of that noise that's keeping them from going out on their own and being a founder and helping other people like you have done?
Yeah, it's really, I also wish that I could hit that fast forward button in so many ways, right? And then also I think that, all of your collected experience like makes you like, I don't think that you can skip steps in life. Although if it were possible, that would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be great?
One finds that little remote, like, let me know. I think that, continuing with this theme of it's not about you, I believe very strongly in the idea that like, if you're called to do something in life, it means that there's somebody who needs that thing. Sidebar, I also, I'm a tarot reader, and there's this really interesting thing about doing readings for people. And I've heard the same thing from my other friends who do different forms of therapy or are astrologers or whatever, that like, there's always this reason whenever I'm reading somebody's cards that at some moment in that reading, I'm like, this is why you're here with me now. Like there's always a reason that person showed up in front of me at that time asking that question, because there's always something in what I'm doing for them that also resonates for me, either because it reminds me of a theme that I've seen with somebody else recently, or maybe even something that like resonates in my own life in some way. And so it's like, they came to me because I have something for them, right? Of all the things that they could be doing in that moment, that's what they chose to do. But then also they came to me because, and they probably don't even know this consciously, they also had something for me. And so anything that we're doing, if you're helping people in the world, however you're helping people, and like, I do it in my own little small way with the sales thing. I'm not like saving lives here, but it does help people. If you're helping people in the world and you feel the, the desire to go and do that, it means that the need for what you want to do already exists. There's already a place for you. And that's why you feel drawn towards it, is because like that other version of yourself is like already there and it's asking you to like come and meet it. So I think if I could go back and tell like past version of myself something that might have helped me to get to this place faster, it would be that. It would be that like, the desire that you feel to do this and to like not just continue to follow the path of being a VP of sales in companies, it's not from a place of ego. It's not selfish. It's because like you're responding to a need that already exists in the world, and it's not about you. And it's actually like your responsibility to go and do that. And it's okay if you don't feel ready right away. You will figure it out, because nobody's ever really truly ready for anything that they do. And they've figured it out, and you will figure it out too. And you know what? If you make mistakes, which you will, like that's also okay. But there's almost no option to not do it once you have that desire, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away. And like, if you decide to like ignore that feeling, you are doing like not only yourself, but like other people in the world a disservice, because that means that like there's a need that will not be met from other people.
Okay. So what do you think is the difference between those who seem to grasp that from day one and day two of their career, they're claiming to be an expert in all the things, and people believe them and they go and get the multi-6-figure clients, and just forever and ever, they were born a professional expert and everybody believes them. And those of us that take years, maybe decades, to get to the point where you are confident enough in yourself and what you can do and in your vision to step into it and say like, hey, I can do that for you. I believe in you and I believe in me. What's the difference? What is the difference?
I mean, unfortunately, I think that it is life experience. I had a really like interesting experience this week. I'm interviewing account executives for one of my clients, and I ran 2 interviews, and these were both candidates had made it all the way through their process. And then they were like, oh, we should probably have them talk to Monica. And so candidate number 1, okay, so by the way, this is a very enterprise SaaS company in a very specific sector, okay, which like very tight knit community, and they sell to like mega multinational companies. So candidate number 1 had no sales experience, no SaaS experience, no enterprise SaaS sales experience, like none of it, right?
Okay.
He ran a D2C brand.
Okay.
For 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So, and it was funny because the whole interview that I was running was supposed to be an operational interview about your sales experience. And within the first 5 minutes, I was like, so he told me his whole story, and I was like, wow, that's such an interesting journey. How'd you get into sales? And he's like, well, I'm not really. And I was like, well, okay. And I'm like looking at all my questions, which is like, how much pipeline did you create last quarter? And how did you do it?
You're right.
Like, well, none of this is going to apply. And he just didn't seem fazed by that at all. And he was like, yeah, I'm so excited to be talking to you because, you clearly know a lot about sales. And so like, how does discovery work? And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, whoa. On the one hand, like, I love like the openness and the curiosity,
sure,
and like the lifelong learner mentality and all of that. But then on the other hand, I'm like, okay, so first of all, people pay me like thousands of dollars an hour for this. And then secondly, like, this is like a real, like this company, like they've got investors, they have salaries to pay. Like, this is not a drill,
Yeah.
Like, you're ready for this? And I just don't think that he had ever asked himself that question. And he was like, well, I figured out everything else. I can figure this out, right? So there's that. And then the next person that I talked to was this woman, like maybe slightly younger, but not that much. And she was so ridiculously accomplished. She's like, yeah, here's how I set up this whole like pipeline generation program at this really big consulting firm that I was at. And then at this other company where I was a full cycle rep, we opened up an entire like regional market. And then I had to pivot really fast, but I already had other markets lined up. And I was just like, you're one of the best salespeople that I've ever interviewed ever in my entire life. I really hope you decide to join us. And she apologized 3 times for talking too much. It's an interview. I'm here to talk to you, you know? And so I think that there's and obviously like there's a gender divide here, but I think that we're all aware of that. And so what I would say that like might be more actionable is that like on the one hand, candidate number 1 is looking for positive pattern matching across his entire experience, right? He's like, I learned how to do one really hard thing and I did it. And then I left that and I went and did something completely different that I had no experience in. And I did that, right, for over a decade. So like objectively was successful.
Yeah.
And so I can do that again. And then candidate number 2 was accepting her insane level of competence and success as the baseline and was looking for always probably what she could optimize and like what she could improve. And that's, I mean, as a fellow like high achiever, I recognize that pattern. And I think that it's such a double-edged sword because on the one, it's how we get so good, right?
Right.
Like, anyone who's an elite musician, athlete, like anything that you do, it's like you do the thing and then you're like, okay, what are the micro tweaks that I can do to make that even better next time? How can I fix my form? How can I like correct my timing? And that's how you become really elite. And it's also important sometimes to just zoom out and say, okay, objectively, these are all of the things that I thought were going to be really hard that I actually did. And one of the ways that I try to do this for myself is like, and I'll do this like at random times throughout the day. I'll just kind of like pause and like rewind to a random past point in my life and then compare like what's different. Like think about a year ago right now in April. Where was I? How was I feeling? Like, what was I thinking about? What were the things that I was worried about? What was I working on? And then I compare that to where I am now. And it's like, every single time that you do this, you're like, that was a different person. Like I've done so much. Like I've come so far since then. So like creating like a little success bank for yourself. And it doesn't even have to be like, oh, what were my metrics? Like
what were my KPIs?
Yeah, what were my KPIs in the last 2 quarters? It can literally just be like, you as a person in your life, like what does your life look like and how are you feeling and how are you moving? Because that's often, that's where the real work happens that eventually shows up in your KPIs.
It's so true. It's so true. Do you think that we overthink things as founders? And what do you think would have been different if you had just, the first time you decided you wanted to go out on your own, if you had just done it?
Well, I kind of did. So, my first consulting client was a company that I was interviewing for a VP of sales job with right after I left Trello. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was like looking at a lot of different types of companies and opportunities. And this company wanted to hire me. And I was like, look, like this is not for me. I don't have any experience in your industry. You don't even need a VP of sales right now. You're way too early for that. But they kept like asking. And I was like, well, I don't have a job right now. Like I've got time, so I just pitched them on consulting. And I think it was 1 day a week for like $5,000 a month or something like that. And I put so much work into putting together like that pricing and that scope. Friends, like it took me like a week. And they were like, yeah, sure. And I was like, really? You can just do that? This is amazing.
Just do that.
Yeah, cool. And so I made like a whole I made like a plan and like I came in and I did these workshops and stuff. And then that was failure number 1. Then I ended up working full time for that company for like and like building a whole team for them. And then I was like, okay, let's try this again.
You partially answered it, but I think part 2 of that is how do you stay? Like how do you stay the course when the whole world it continues to make you feel like, yeah, but that was just a one-time thing. How are you going to have repeatable success? How are you going to keep doing this? Because you didn't grow a company from 0 to $11 billion. And
Yeah.
like, how do you continue to stay in it? Like,
Yeah.
and when it's just fueling yourself?
Well, I ask myself that question all the time. And I think that, there's two things. One is that like I feel a very high degree of accountability and responsibility for my clients. Like I really like want them to win. And when people are like not doing right by them or their sales team is like slacking or whatever, I feel personally offended. I'm like, how can you do this to the founder? Like, do you know what they did to get to this point where they can hire you? Like they work so hard. And I feel like it's just, I have this very strong personal sense of like justice. It's probably all the placements that I have in Scorpio. So I'm like, when I see there's a possibility for something to be working better, it is like a personal issue for me if people are not making that happen. So that's one thing where I'm like, I can't let this go. And then I think the second thing is I am always asking myself if I'm doing enough and like if I'm doing a good enough job. And I'm the thing that I'm the most afraid of in my business is being someone who gets stuck in a certain way of doing things and doesn't realize that they're losing pace with like what the market actually needs and what's working for other companies.
I hear that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I've leaned in a lot to just thinking about like how to evolve my content and like how to use like how I can use AI and how I can use all the tools that are available to like make that process a lot faster. So like, for example, one of the things that I'll do is like all of the trainings and workshops that I run, maybe like twice a year, I take the recordings of all of those and I create a report of all the things that are not in the workshop content that I actually end up talking to people about, like questions that I'm getting and things like that. And then I'll go back and I'll rework the deck so that I'm not just like doing the same training over and over for years. And then I also try to bring things, right? Like, so like I'm running a business, they're running a business. It's not the same type of business, but there is a lot of overlap. So lately I've been bringing a lot of the things that I've learned about like content into the clients that I work with. And it's super fun because I get to teach them all the stuff that I've spent like 3 years learning about like how to build a brand on LinkedIn and like how to translate that into B2B. So I think that's the part that kind of keeps it fun and interesting for me and also keeps me from freaking out and being like, am I doing the right thing? Because I'm like, okay, if I'm constantly questioning everything that I'm teaching and like validating, is it still the thing that's going to work the best? Then I'm probably doing enough and I'm probably doing okay. And like, not all of the new things are things that we should be doing. Like, there was like, I think the AI SDR trend is a really good example of that. Yes. Everyone got really into it. I had a bunch of people that tried like 11x and things like that, and they all ended up having bad experiences. So, I'm probably going to get a bunch of comments on your podcast now that I've said that from all the AI people. But it's not to say that we should jump on every trend, but I think like just continuously looking at your own business with a critical lens and thinking, is this the best way to do things? Like, should you be creating an account plan document anymore? Like, probably not, So yeah, things like that.
Yeah. Critical thinking.
Yeah.
So simple. But it's just, maybe don't ask ChatGPT how to run your business every minute of every day. Like you're the only one who knows your business. You're the only one who knows where you want to go and knows what your unique opportunity is better than anybody else. And so, I don't know, maybe ask yourself sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe ask yourself. And that's what that's why you're here. And that is what makes you special. But I think, going kind of like closing the loop here, the thing that makes it really easy to do that is again, that like my business is not about me. And so if I completely change the way that I'm doing something, it doesn't mean that I'm invalidating like my past experience, right? Like it's just, it's a neutral thing. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The customer is always the hero. You are always the guide, and the map you might use to get there, or the navigation tools you might use to get there might change over time, but like those two things remain the same. And I think that there's so much noise telling you like who you have to be in, because that's what serves the other people all around you about what they're trying to sell. And just, it's simple, not easy. Don't lose focus. What would you, sorry, go ahead. You're going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm a big fan of What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith.
Love that book. Yes.
Love that. Of course you do. I love that book so much. And like, it just makes it easier if you think of like you as not being a fixed thing. And this is also something that I think I also see reflected in the founders that I work with is they're like, the best ones are constantly asking, like, is this version of myself still the thing that the business needs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So bringing it all together, I feel like you've replaced the bad advice and the bad head trash with lots of good advice. But what would you leave? We both work with founders. What would you leave founders who might be listening or watching with today?
First of all, everything that you already have up until this point in your journey makes you qualified to do the thing that you want to do. And the way that you know that is because that's the thing that you want to do. You don't really need any more proof than that. And once you have your path and you're committed to it, then just think about like that goal as being your North Star and like be committed to the outcome, not the way that you get there.
Good advice, Monica. Thank you so much for sharing it and for being here and for being you and
for having me.
I love all the stories. Every single time we talk, I hear a new story and I'm grateful for you. So thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so fun.
Thanks for joining me for Actually I Can. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And look for me over on Substack, where I write for founders every week and actually go a lot deeper on some of these conversations to give you more information about how it all aligns to the BRAVE framework and the founder's journey. Remember, discernment is a valuable skill. Think of this show as practice. Go do something brave today. Thanks for joining me on Actually I Can. We'll see you next time.